Our man with the numbers, Nick Nanos, joins us. He's the president of Nanos Research. He is in Ottawa. What's behind these numbers boosting Michael Ignatieff?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that although Michael Ignatieff is a name that people are starting to recognize, there's not a lot of definition. And as a result, in my experience, when there's a new leader and people don't know a lot about that leader, they project positive things. And I think Canadians are waiting to see whether Michael Ignatieff will be an effective counterpoint or alternative to the Prime Minister. And they'll probably be watching very closely what happens in the coming weeks in regards to the speech from the throne and the budget.
What does this mean for the Liberal Party? Are they going to be anxious at all to jump into an election campaign anytime soon?
Well, I'm not sure if they'll be anxious, but they should be cautiously optimistic, because it does mean that there's potential for Michael Ignatieff. But you know, the reality, the proof is going to be in the pudding next week, because that's going to be the one time when Canadians are going to focus on Michael Ignatieff to see how he responds to the budget, to see whether he gets what he wants out of the Prime Minister and whether there's a budget that is acceptable to the Liberals. And that's probably going to be kind of the first indicator as to whether these numbers will firm up or whether it'll be a missed opportunity for Michael Ignatieff.
Now, everybody's going to be paying attention to this very major budget in terms of how it's going to help the economy. How do you think Harper and Ignatieff are going to hammer things out in terms of making sure that they can agree on this, or will they?
Well, I think it's going to be critical for both the Prime Minister and Michael Ignatieff to try to depoliticize as much as possible the budget process. I think Canadians have had enough with playing politics and partisanship. I think they're worried about whether they're going to be able to keep their jobs. They're worried about their savings, whether they can afford to send their kids to university. And I think any politician that tries to take political advantage or to be overtly partisan in this process will probably be punished. So I think we're going to see a little more of a friendly budget process compared to the past.
Now, speaking of partisanship, what happens with that grand coalition that was hatched?
Well, you know, the polling really showed that last fall, when the Grand Coalition was formed with Stéphane Dion as the possible Prime Minister, that Canadians were really not hot on that idea because they had just basically rendered judgment on Stéphane Dion. What the polling does show is that with Michael Ignatieff as the interim leader, marginally more people are willing to consider a coalition government, Quebecers especially. But you know, when we get outside of Quebec, when we get to areas like Western Canada, Western Canadians do not want any kind of coalition. They'd rather go through another election and have things decided that way.
Can Stephen Harper essentially get momentum back in his favor? Not that it's left at all, but can he ensure that momentum stays with him by making sure the budget has what most people want?
Well, you know, naturally the budget should be an advantage for the Prime Minister. He's an economist and he leads the Conservative Party of Canada, and most Canadians would expect the Conservatives to be strong on fiscal issues. So I think if he can come forward with a strong budget, if he can show that there will be stimulus and relief and help for Canadians, that he could get through this. Now, how much of a bump? It's really hard to tell, because it's going to be interesting to see what the dynamic is between Stephen Harper and Michael Ignatieff.
Everyone knows that Barack Obama is going to be making a visit up to Canada. Nobody knows exactly when, but how do you think Harper and Obama are going to get along?
It's difficult to see. You know, we can expect Barack Obama really to be the statesman and to play positive, but I think for Canadians, they're going to see the picture of Barack Obama and Stephen Harper and think about the previous president of the United States and how close or closely Canadians perceive the two of them. And they're really going to probably be looking at signals which either validate that it's business as usual in regards to Canada and the United States, or that something might be amiss. So I think for Stephen Harper, he's going to probably do everything he can to ensure that Canada has good relations with the United States, and that what I'll say, the past administration is a past and forgotten administration.
Now, is it possible at this point to say when the next election might be?
Well, I don't think it's going to be in the near term. I would expect the budget to pass in one form or another. I think really the Prime Minister is in the driving seat in regards to the timing of the next election. If he introduces legislation that's a showstopper, so to speak, then we will go to an election. But I would expect, you know, if I were to guess, I would say probably the fall would be the next window for an election. And there's going to be a bit of shadow boxing, I think, in the next month or two between Stephen Harper and Michael Ignatieff.
Our man with the numbers in Ottawa, Nick Nanos, thanks a lot.
Thank you.